Hi and welcome back to another video of JPlay. I am Marcus, and as you can see today it's all about Ring Circus. The game is around for quite a while, but it was relatively recently published by KOSMOS Spiele here in Germany, in the German version obviously, and they also kindly provided me this review copy here, so thanks for that. And yeah, as it comes with a solo mode, I am going to take a look at the solo mode, playing against the spectacular Automaton show, which basically consists of 2 decks of cards, also a pedestal, but that's basically a color from the neutral player. We have our own transportation marker and these 4 artist markers here that will be shuffled randomly. And of course, these 2 decks are also, let's say, kind of stage. So we have an early stage of the game, we have a later stage of the game. The game comes with different difficulty levels. I decided to play on the easy difficulty level because I really didn't play that game all that much, and I haven't played the solo mode before, so I'm as curious as you are. As for the setup, we are basically playing a 2-player game, and I'm also following, let's say, the recommended setup. How you can play this game. In a 2 or 3-player game, you are covering up some of these areas here, some of these regions. So in this 2-player mode, we have the Boston area, we have New York, and we have Washington DC down here. Here on the left, there are other locations, and depending on your play style and if you want to mix things up, you can cover other aspects of the game or other parts of the map here. And I think the game will be definitely different just by that alone. We are playing 3 scoring rounds, let's put it like this. So we have P.T. Barnum over here at Boston, also depending a little bit how you prepared the game board. But I believe in this setup, he always starts here at Boston with his carrier, and then he is moving down here to the Washington area. From the Washington, we are then moving to New York, and last but not least, he's making it back to Boston, triggering the 3rd action. The first scoring will definitely take some time, so really the Barnum marker will have to move all the way down here to Washington DC. From there it will be relatively quickly moving to New York and then to Boston. But there are definitely a lot of ways how you can prepare for that here accordingly. And then yeah, you're tallying up your final scoring. There are ways that you can score some in-game points, but you will also score a good amount of points at the end of the game. And that's also the case for the AI player, who feels almost like a human player. So they are doing more or less the same thing, but yeah, is following some more logics. Yes, he's not really concerned about a lot of things, but yeah, we will get to that. The Automaton will start the game, and the first thing that you do during the very first turn of the game, we are flipping over the first of his artist tiles here. So he's all about animals, and there is a section in the rules actually speaking about, yeah, the elephant in the room. I believe this is what they are calling it, where they of course address, yeah, the elephant in the room, how animals are being treated in these circus shows and whatnot in the past. But yeah, definitely worth a read in there. And that's the first thing. The second thing, the Automaton is placing his caravan here in the next city that would be scored. Again, the first city that we are scoring is Washington, and as far as I understood the rules, I have to go into the remaining capital city, I believe, or main city. You already see some tents here on the board. That's all part of the 2-player game, because when we are doing a scoring, we are checking for majorities in all of these regions. So basically, whoever has the majority in respect to these tents will score 10 points, 6 points, and 3 points respectively. The neutral player, the red player here, does count, but the neutral player is not really scoring any points here. It's simply there to make our lives a little bit more difficult. So the first region which we have to worry about will be Washington DC down here. So if we really want to play a role in this, then we might want to move down here, placing as many tents as possible. But there's also, let's say, where you can say, no, I will only focus on these 2 here, for example. Depends. It's really difficult to win the majority in all 3 of these regions. That's basically what I'm trying to say. I have no clue how the Automaton does. But we are playing on easy, but there's still room enough for me to goof things up. Okay, and then we are flipping over the first AI card. We are starting here with this clairvoyance deck or so, and then we are going for the monkey deck. So we have basically two sections here on this card. We have a generic one up here, and then we have, let's say, a bonus action down here, which the AI is either doing depending on the difficulty level. So in this case, if we would be playing on the tough difficulty level, so basically 3 of these screws here, then we would also move the pedestal up, which is usually not great for us. So in this case, we are only looking at the topmost part of this card. There will be cards that will only be triggered when you play on the easy level. That's what we do, but you get the idea. We have a normal action, then we would have a difficult action, which we will ignore for now. In this case, he's going to hire an artist. That's the action that you see up here. The only other alternative that would be possible is to perform a show, but that's the same for us. We can either hire an artist or we can perform a show. In this case, they're going to hire an artist. This also means we are driving the locomotive down, which ultimately means he's not moving as fast. That's a good thing, but he's also grabbing one of these ticket cards out there, which are those up here. So we have animals, we have other artists, we have special kind of artists. They all come with victory points here at the end of the game. They all come with respective either bonus victory points at the end of the game or special abilities like this one. This would increase your speed again by 1, for example, if they would placing it. There is a priority or list of priority how the automaton would choose their artist to go for. Usually it's always the, let's say, the most, let's call it expensive one. So in this case it would be the 13, but the first tiebreaker here, he wants an artist that is being in demand for one of these main cities here. So in Boston, for example, we are looking for one of these purple ones up here. And there is a proper name for those. I don't have those. Bear with me. Here we would have an animal in Washington, D.C. and the same is true for New York. Because there we have them both right now, he will go for the one that would be scoring first. In this case, Washington, D.C. will be scored first. In this case, he will totally go for this lion, which we will place onto the board. Normally we are playing a game of 3 Ring Circus, not so much for the spectacular automaton show. He's using 1 ring. We will have to adhere to the 3 rings, so he will more or less place them all into one line. There are some limitations, so you're not allowed to have the same number in any given line. So in this case, because the automaton only has 1 line, 1 ring circus here, he would never go for the same line here again. That's basically what I'm trying to say. But that's already the end of his action. One thing that's left to do, he's always removing the artist to the far right. Then we are sliding everything to the right, and then we are revealing new artists here respectively, always from left to right. And I really shuffled the heck out of this deck, and there are really a lot of different symbols, but for now that's not so much it, and for us that's definitely a disadvantage, because again the main cities right now both demand animals. And this one here in particular, no, I think specific, I should be clearer. So this animal down here definitely needs to be the 11. So Washington, D.C. wants to see a lion. I mean, you see the lion symbol here. And up here in New York, it's an elephant. So this one doesn't really help them with the New York one. I should have been more clear on this. But ultimately, yeah, that's really not great for us because, yeah, he already has this line and we don't. It's really bad that he's going first. There are some discussion on the Geek in respect to the ticket offer here, because it's relatively static in a 2, 3, 4 player game. So if you're really ending up in a situation like this where no one really cares too much about those, then you have to go for the topmost card from this deck instead, if you want to. So there are no real ways in the game that would remove them. And that's something that for whatever reason now happens in the solo mode, where the iPlayer is taking 1 card and is also removing 1. So I honestly quite like that, but so far I really haven't stumbled upon this as a major problem. But I can see if you play this game more often, and it's all about optimizing your line of artists, and if you're really stuck with something, then yeah, you can be really stuck. But I digress. it's back to me. Because it's my very first turn of the game, I now have to place my caravan onto the last remaining main city, which is New York in this case. And as of my first action, I have to hire an artist, so I can't perform a show. For the AI, that's not so much of a problem because he always already starts with one of those artists here. So that's the first thing that you do. So with this artist, in theory, he would be able to perform at one of these, I think, medium cities out there, but in this case it didn't really matter. We really don't have a choice. We have to play an artist, and this is our starting hand of cards. You always start with 4 of these money cards. Money cards can be either immediate effects like these 5er cards here. These 5er always help you whatever to improve your performances. The other money cards are artists, similarly to the normal ticket cards here. And this is the card we have drawn, and here I was really lucky. At least we have an animal for New York. Remember, they want to see elephants, so we have that elephant in the room here. And then we also start with one of those end of game scoring cards here. In this case, if we will be able to amass 10 of these cards in our basically 3 ring card, we would be scoring 5 points, 7 points or 10 points here respectively, and I think that should be our goal. This is a relatively easy to achieve scoring card. So now we have to bring out our first artist, and again we can choose. We can play these as money because these are money cards for a reason, so we can use these cards to pay for other cards, or we can also bring them out as artists. But then this is not just the, let's say, the value that they add, this is also the price that we have to pay for these artists, and all of those are usually giving you something to improve your pedestals. So this one here, I think this is a fortune teller, so would work pretty nicely actually, because we would gain a pedestal and we would add another pedestal for every basically animal that was following this. So I think this is a pretty cool card to play. So we are going to play her first. So now we have to choose one of our 3 rings. That's a ring, that's a ring, that's a ring. Again, the AI only plays with 1 ring. For my first ring, I don't think I want to go for this one, because here we would be covering up our first transportation. That is terrible. We don't want to do that. So I think in this case, it would behoove us to start playing up here, because the next card we would be playing into this would give us another money card, and money cards are usually great. Yo, let's totally do that. Of course, we still have to pay for this, so we have to come up with 3 money. We could go for this card, overpaying. I think we have to overpay, but I really want to hold on to this because this card gives us 2 extra money cards. So I think in this case, we will pay this artist with this artist. This is simply discarded, going back to the board. Now we do what it says. We get 1 more pedestal down here. Keep in mind, we start the game with 1 pedestal. That's the reason why we're here at 1. That's the last thing that you would typically cover up. So this will help us for the medium cities to come. And in theory, we would now get another pedestal for every other animal that would follow the fortune teller here. You see the arrow that is pointing to the right. So if we would later on play that elephant here, and we have to play them in an ascending order, so 3, 10, you get the idea. In this case, yeah, the elephant would follow the fortune teller, and this would give us basically 1 more step for the pedestal. But that's already the end of our turn done. And honestly, from here on out, we can really speed things up because you already have seen 50% of the game, more or less. Let's put it like this. Okay, he's going to hire another artist. So I think in this case, the first thing that we would do is to flip over the next token here in this line. Okay, that's a magician and an animal. Again, those usually help you to perform in medium cities because they want to see animals, they want to see sorcerers or magicians. And in this case, he's also driving up his pedestal by 1, so already at 3. Not particularly great for us, but I think this is something that will happen. We can manage. Okay, now it's already back to us. Yeah, this was already the action. I think there are only these 2, and I think I misspoke a little bit earlier. So the first card was actually to engage an artist. And the second card is to flip an artist tile and move the pedestal up. These are the two flavors for these cogwheels here. And then there is the hat symbol, which is then ultimately means we are performing a show. But in this case, we already have triggered that action. Again, I have to make a choice if I want to hire another artist. In theory, again, playing the elephant would be great. The thing is, I would have to come up with 10 money minus the 3 because this is the highest card we have in this row. So we would have to come up with 7 money. In theory, we have the money, but I think let's not get too crazy. So I think instead of performing, instead of hiring or engaging another artist, we are going to perform. And I think the only worthwhile thing to perform in is in a small town right now. So these are the small towns, these are the medium towns, and again, these are the major or main cities here. In the main cities, they're very specific in respect to what they want to see. So again, here we want to see lions, and then we might get some bonus points for other artists that are left or right. Here we want to see elephants. You get the idea. In these medium cities here, let's say Philadelphia, for example, we have another randomization effect. So these are double-sided. You bring them out. So replayability is really huge. The same is true for these main city cards. So we will have a different setup each time you play the game. But again, in Philadelphia, if we would be moving there, they want to see clowns. We can go there without clowns, but with a clown we would be getting temporary bump of 2 pedestals. And the more pedestals you have in these medium cities here, you will either get more tickets or you will get more victory points. And that's ultimately the name of it. So the popcorn marker is our victory points, in case you were wondering. So I think going to, for example, Philadelphia wouldn't help us. There is some demand for magicians down here in Baltimore, and I believe we could actually make it to Baltimore. We have a magician in our ranks. Keep in mind, we have the fortune teller here. She would give us a bump of 2, and it doesn't matter how many magicians you are. As long as you have one of those, you get the 2, not 2 per corresponding magician here. We have 2 pedestals plus the temporary 2. We would make it here, which is not too bad, which would be 1 point or 2 of these ticket cards. But I think ultimately we may want to make it to at least maybe 6 or better 8 before we are making it into one of these, let's say, medium cities. So I think the last option that we can take is to go for a small town. And here we also have various things that you want to consider. Bringing our tents down here is key because this will be our first scoring area of the game, right? But you also want to perform in a location, in a small town where the neighboring towns, you see them here, are also not yet enjoyed a performance from any of our competitors or from us, which ultimately means we will be getting more bonuses. And I think that's actually what we want to do in this case. And we want to score all of these regions. So having tents out here doesn't hurt us anyway. So I think overall that's the best idea. So we are moving now 1, 2 spaces. Again, the movement range is defined by the amount of locomotives that you see on our board. So right now I think we are at 6 still, so we could move up to 6 spaces. We only use 2 of those. That's totally fine. Next, we check for our rewards. First things first, before any performance, doesn't matter if you do that in a small town, medium town, or a main town, you are allowed to play exactly one of these 5er cards. And again, these are coming with these flash icons. So we can play exactly one of those. And I think that's what we are going to do. So we are playing this card. This card simply gives us 2 more money cards at the end of each performance. It doesn't matter which performance it is. Because we are now performing in a small town, which you would see up here, as a reward, we are getting 1 immediate money card right off the bat. That's our bonus. But then we are also, oh, that's another 5er here. But then we are also getting 1 money card for each neighboring town that doesn't have a tent. Thematically, it means all those folks, they are really starving for some good entertainment, and they're also moving here to Poughkeepsie. I think that's, sorry, it's really hilarious. So first of all, we are placing our first tent here on the board. So no no one else can perform here basically throughout the entirety of the game here, because again we are getting one card here and one card here. Both of these are currently empty. They're really starving for entertainment. So this was the first card for the entertainment itself, for the performance itself. We're getting one card here, one card here, so we're getting 2 more money cards. That is huge. And because we also played this one, we are getting 2 more cards for that. So that's really, really huge, giving us a good amount of, let's say, currency throughout the game. Maybe also good artists that we could leverage. So I think overall, even though it didn't really help us for the majority down in Washington, D.C., it was still worth to go there, because we really got a good amount of more artist cards out here. We have 2 of these 5er cards here. So this doesn't move the Barnum marker, which could help us. Here we would gain more pedestals, which is definitely nice, depending on, how many animals we have in our show. And this simply also gives us more pedestals for animals. Maybe we have to use some of those as currency, and I think we will totally do that. Let me count the cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's fine. Our hand limit is 10. And the very last thing to do, because someone has given a performance, the Barnum caravan is also moving 1 space counterclockwise again next to, or through the next scoring location. He is always skipping over those tents which are here on the board on the small towns. It's one of the reasons why some of these spaces are taken. So you have some control in respect to how you want to move Barnum. So if I would be here, for example, if I would have performed here, then Barnum would have moved here to Northampton instead. Again, speeding things up a little bit. Not sure if that's in my best interest, but yeah, you get the idea. And that's the end of the round for me, and yeah, handing it over to the spectacular Automaton show. So let's see what he does. Okay, he's giving a performance, so we can ignore this one down here, which would be really, really devastating. So if he would play on hard mode, he would gain 2 more pedestals. So in this case, he's simply moving to, let's say, the next best location for him. There is a list of priorities which he wants to or has to adhere to. First of all, he's going for the next scoring region. So I think he will stick around in Washington, D.C. for now. Perform in a main city if possible, and I think he can actually do that. Yeah, I think he can do that. That's really bad for us. Otherwise, perform in a medium city. So no, I think he has to move away, right? I think he has to move at least, 1 step. So he can't give a performance here in Washington, D.C. right now. Again, not sure if that's good or bad, because again, in theory, he would be scoring some points in here as well. So already 6 points, because he's first, he would be scoring 9 points, which is not nothing in this game, believe me. So in this case, he will go for a medium city instead, but only if he comes up with 5 pedestals. And I think he should be able to, because he already has 3 and he should be able to get a +2 of any of those preferred artist categories. So I think in this case he will either move to Baltimore or Pittsburgh. I think he has to go to Baltimore, because in Pittsburgh they're looking for this cowboy hat symbol. Not really sure what those are. He doesn't have those right now. Sooner or later he will have all those categories in his circus, that much is clear. But in this case I believe he has to go to Baltimore, so he will move 1, 2 spaces up here. We are checking what he gets. Again, he has the 3 plus the 2 from his, what does he have, favorite category here. So that's the second one that we have revealed. So in this case, he makes it to 5 points, which is just not good enough for the 6 points here. So he will certainly place his tent into this region here. Therefore, he will collect 1 point for that. That is not really huge, but anyway, for the majority, it might help him at some point in time, relatively soon that is. So right now, the neutral player would be first first here, blue would be scoring 10 points, but again, red is not scoring points. But because he's right now second here down in Washington, D.C., he would be scoring 6 points for that. And I think he will continue to do that. The thing now is, he can't no longer perform here in Baltimore, because on any of these, you can have 1/10 of each color basically in this row. And this space is blocked. So if I go to Baltimore, I have to either whatever live with the 2, or I have to go for the 6 or 8. The 4 is basically taken for me. Yeah, and I think that's basically the end of his turn as well, right? Yeah. Of course, one thing I shouldn't forget, Barnum marker is moving 1 space further clockwise, moving towards Washington, D.C. in order to trigger the first scoring there. And now it's back to me, and I think I want to bring out the elephant here. The elephant ideally wants to be next to or after one of these fortune tellers here, or the other way around. The fortune teller wants animals after her, so we are placing this card here. Again, we have to come up with 7 money, so here we have 5. Do we have a 2? Yes, we do have a 2. So here is an animal. Do I need the animal right now? Sooner or later we may. Is there something? What about this one? Should I overpay again maybe? Maybe this? That's 9. Let's hold on to this. So we are overpaying with those 2 cards here for no apparent reasons right now. So this elephant will score us 2 points at the end of the game. And in theory, if we put these bluish rectangular icons basically next to the elephant throughout the game, then we will be scoring 2 points for each card that is on the left of the elephants here, but not so easy. Let's see. Yeah, I think there are 2 cards where we could achieve that. But because we have played it here, we are getting this bonus right off the bat. So we're getting yet another money card. Yeah, that's a duplicate, which may not be it's not the worst thing in the world. That is fine. And now we're checking our board again, our circus here. We now check here. Okay, we already have gotten this, but now we have just added another animal here to the row, and it's to the right of the fortune teller, which means we are moving the pedestal 1 space up. Nicely done. And that's already the end of my turn. And did I mention that I really do appreciate easy to follow AI rules, and these cards really seem to work quite well. Okay, in this case, things are not so great. Again, he's going to perform, and I think he may now perform in Washington, D.C. actually. In theory, he would be gaining 2 more of those pedestals. Here it doesn't matter if you're playing on easy or difficult. This will simply be triggered. It's like we would have played a 5 money card, but ultimately he can still move up to 5 spaces. But again, the main priority are always those main cities. 1 and 2 down here to Washington, D.C. Again, Washington, D.C., they want to see lions. Right now, the only artist that the Automaton has are the lions, or is the lion here. So we are basically fulfilling this goal. Otherwise, we couldn't perform here at all. If we wouldn't have this one, then this is completely useless going there. Now we would in theory check if we would be having, let's say, one of these cards to the left or one of these cards here to the right. That's not the case. So here we kind of dodged the bullet to some extent. We are still placing a tent here. So in theory we're getting, the Automaton gets 6 points, and because he was first here, ultimately he will score 9 points for that, moving him to 10 victory points. And of course, we must not forget to move the caravan 1 space further, and that's his turn done. Okay, back to us, and I really had to think about this, and I guess it's time to play another artist, and this time we're going here for this lasso lady here. Right, so we are basically paying for the same one. You can't have the same number in the same row. It always has to be in an ascending order. So we can't have another card with a value 4 down here. So we have paid for this. Again, we are getting 1 more pedestal, and in theory would gain more pedestals for animals. So for a split second, I was thinking about moving her up here maybe, but then I would be losing 1 locomotive, so 1 speed basically, and I think I really need that speed, quite honestly. And maybe I want to score more points with the elephants here instead. Yeah, let's leave it like this. We can always check how many pedestals we have. 1, 2, 3. Because we have a +1, it should be on 4. That's nice, and that's already the end of our turn done. Back to the Automaton, and okay, he's flipping over the next one, the next favorite category. It's the cowboy hat, and we are also moving the pedestal up by 1. And I think these cards are only here in the fortune teller deck. I'm relatively certain about. I could be wrong. I don't know. I don't really know. But that's again already the end of his turn, and I really, really enjoy the simpleness of how. And I think this has been designed by David Turchi. I think I could be wrong, but I'm relatively certain that it's one more of his masterpieces. Nicely done, David. Back to us, and I think we should be able to make it to Pittsburgh. We still have 6 visible locomotives on our player board, and I think we should be making it down here to Pittsburgh. And the good thing here is you have to jump over these 10s that are already here on the board, so I can't really stop here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, we have made it to Pittsburgh, and they are really crazy about these cowboy hats. Luckily, we have one in our posse. So we get 4 here, and we have, because of the cowboy hat here, we have a 6 in theory. We can play one of our temporary cards, and this one would give us a temporary pedestal for each animal we currently have anywhere on our board here. We have one animal here which would make it to 7, right? 4 plus 2 plus 1, that's 7. And I think that's quite perfect. So we definitely want to place this one here. Now the tough part is, do we want 5 victory points, which really isn't terrible, or do we want the 3 ticket cards? And I think because we are slowly running out of ticket cards and artists, after all, I think we have to do that. In these medium cities or in the main cities, you don't get any of these money cards. Oh yes, I do. I do, and I forgot. And I always forget because we have a visual money card on our player board still. So I should have gotten one more of those money cards for my last performance. So that's the card from the last time. It's a nice looking goose. And we are getting one money card because, again, this is still visual. You get this after each performance, no matter where you... Oh, that's a clown. I think that's not bad, Pennywise. But yeah, we have the 7. So now I think, looking at our hand of cards, will this change something? And I still think it does, because we have the elephant here, and the elephant wants specialized artists left to and there are some good ones up there. So I guess in this case, again, we get up to 3 of these ticket cards. Yeah, let's totally do that. So I will go for those 2 because they fit quite nicely next to our elephant. And then we get a 3rd one. It doesn't refresh, unfortunately, only when we are done. And I think let's go for the mystery meat up here. It's an animal. That is so cool. I think oh, that's really went our way. Oh, that was great, because we can bring the elephant next to the lasso lady here, giving us a pedestal, 1 victory point, and here another pedestal. I think, yeah, this worked out pretty nicely, actually. Cool stuff. Let's reveal more cards. This only happens in the solo mode. Normally it doesn't matter where they appear, but in this case, because, oh, more animals and even more animals. Believe me, I shuffled the heck out of this deck. And of course, the Barnum marker needs to move. We have to hop over Syracuse, so he's now in Rochester here again, making his way down to Washington, D.C. sooner or later. Nice. So let's continue. Let's do one more round. And I think then you should have seen really a lot of things. So he's giving another performance. We are not playing on the, let's say, difficulty levels, or the hard difficulty level, let's put it like this. So in theory, again, he would be moving to the next major city or main city in New York, maybe, because this, again, he can't perform in Washington DC anymore, so he already did his stuff there. Or he was also already in Baltimore. In theory, he could get to Pittsburgh, and now he has the cowboy hat, actually. So I think, and right now he's not winning the scoring down here in Washington DC. It's 2 versus 2 against the neutral, or 2 versus 2 for the neutral player. So I think for him it would make sense to make it here to Pittsburgh, and he will make it to 5 for sure. Yeah, that's the thing. So he's moving 1 and 2. In theory, I believe he can also hop over us if we are. I think this also counts for medium cities if there are caravans, but in this case, that is totally fine. Again, they want to see cowboy hat. Now he definitely does have a cowboy act in his show. He has 4 pedestals plus the 2, he makes it to 6, which means he is placing 1 thing in here. He doesn't care about those things. He will simply score 3 more points for that. And now he does have the majority down here in Washington, D.C. So if Barnum will make it down here, he will score 10 more points. And yeah, let's not forget, Barnum will move 1 space further. Okay, back to me, and I think we want to play this animal down here. We have to cover up one of these locomotive. That's kind of a bummer, but it is what it is. We are getting 1 more right off the bat because we are seeing it. Then we are triggering this because now an animal is to the right of this card. We are moving this back up again. We have to pay $1 for that, and I think in this case, even though this looks really nice, I like the artwork, I like the style of this game, really nicely done. But yeah, unfortunately, we have to discard her. And I think with that menagerie, we should be able to make it to Baltimore to score some more points. So in theory, we should be at least able to tie the red neutral player, but it doesn't help us because again the tie is then broken. Whoever is to the farthest of the left in the main city here. So right now the neutral player would beat us here if we would end up with the same amount of 10s in the Washington DC area down here. But I think you should have a good grasp of this game by now. The only thing that is quote-unquote missing is the scoring for the majorities here. And again, in theory, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more steps. If nothing changes here in respect to small town 10s, we would be scoring one of the first region down here in Washington DC. As usual, let me know if you want me to continue my solo playthrough here. I will leave the board set for a day or 2. And as usual, if I get enough interest, enough votes, enough comments, you name it, then I will definitely consider to continue playing. Maybe I should be even able to complete the solo playthrough with a second video here, because now I really have explained it for the most part. I think again, you have seen 98% now of this game. And yeah, let me know what you think. Before I forget, huge shout out to all of my patrons and channel members out there. You guys are truly amazing. Can't tell you how much I appreciate all your support. So if you want to support my little show, definitely go to my page on Patreon. You will find a link. Join me here directly on YouTube. There's a join button. There's also a thanks button below the video for a small or maybe not so small donation, up to you. Definitely like and subscribe, leave a comment. This is also greatly appreciated and really helps the show as well. And yeah, with that being said, hope to see you soon in one of my other videos, and until then, bye bye.